Hey y'all! In a previous video, we created this V-Carved Monogram sign using a split font. And I said that there was an easy way and a difficult way to create a design like this. I'm going to give you a fair warning right now. This video is going to make some people very angry with me. I'll let you know when we get to that part of the video, but suffice it to say, some folks are going to be angry. This was supposed to be the easier way, and this was supposed to be the more difficult way. When we get to the part that's going to make you angry, I'll show you why this is actually a bit easier. So, let's go ahead and get into a new session of Aspire. And I have a piece of material already set up here. It's identical to this first project we did, 14 by 14 and 3/4 of an inch thick. And we're going to start by using a font. Now, the font I'm going to use for this is called Gaudi Initial EN. And I will put a link to this website where you can download this font for free in the description box of this video. And if we look over here at the licensing, it is free for personal and commercial use. So, the link to this font will be in the description of this video. Also, I'll let you know that even though I'm using Aspire version 10.019, this works identically in VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro. So to get started, let's go ahead up here and get into the Draw Text tool. Let that load my fonts. And it's already selected, but this is the font I'm going to use, the Gaudi Initial EN. Click on that, and like the other fonts, I'm going to use all capital letters. So for this, I'm just putting in a capital L for my last name. I'll go ahead and close that. Then I immediately want to align it to the center of my material. Then, with it still selected, I want to set my object size. I want to anchor it in the center. Make sure my link XY is checked. And I'm going to make this 12-inch square. We'll apply that. Close it. Now, what I want to do immediately here is I want to go ahead and convert this to curves. So I'll right-click with it still selected and come down here to Convert to Curves. I want to clear out a space in the center here to put my last name. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle, and that rectangle is going to be anchored in the center on my X0 and my Y0 with square corners. I want the width in X to be 13 inches. I then also want my height in Y to be 3 inches. And I'll create that rectangle. Now we'll get into the part that's going to make some folks angry. Before, I've had you come in here and trim all of these vectors out, deleting some like this or this, and then coming back with the trim tool and trimming all of these where they join the rectangle. Completely and totally ignoring one icon over here under Edit Objects that would do that with one click. I'm going to go ahead and select everything out here except for my rectangle. Then I want to hold down Shift and select my rectangle last. Then I'll come over here under Edit Objects to this icon right here, to the left of my trim tool. That is, trim selected objects to the last selected object. Meaning, it's going to trim all of these vectors in here to this rectangle. We'll go ahead and we'll click on that icon. And if we read this paragraph here, it's telling us it's going to trim all of these to the last selected object. I want to clear inside the boundary. I'll go ahead and press clear. Close that. Click off. Not only did it trim away all of these vectors in here. If I select my rectangle and delete it, we see it also automatically closed all of these vectors down here. Before the flames come in the comment section down below, I'd like to sincerely apologize. I knew this was here. I've used it one time in the 5 years that I've been working in the Vectric software, and I completely, totally forgot it was there. My sincerest apologies. So, from here, what do we do? I'm going to go ahead and select all of these vectors, and I want to simplify these vectors. I want to remove a lot of the points and apply some curves to some of these straight lines. So I'll come over here under Edit Objects to Fit Curve to Selected Vectors. I'll click on that. And here we see all of the points that make up these vectors. I'm going to go with Bezier curves. I'll click on Preview, and we can see that that's reduced the number of points out here already. That's going to help us later on. I'll go ahead and click OK. Then with them still selected, I want to go straight into my Vector Validator tool. So we'll go over here to Vector Validator. Click on that. I want to go into V-carving mode. We'll search selected. And we see here we have 2 zero-length spans. We have 3 overlaps and 53 intersections. As part of the Vector Validator, it is offering here to fix these zero-length spans. I'll go ahead and click that, and that takes care of those zero-length spans. I'll go ahead and hit Search Selected again. It also had a side effect of getting rid of one of those intersections. So now I want to get in, and just like in the previous video, we'll get in here and we'll take a look at what's going on with all these intersections. So I'll click off, and I'm going to select this vector, tap N to go into node editing, and we can see here that we have a crisscross. Looking at the overall design of this little element here, not only is that not necessary, it doesn't add anything to the design. So I'll go ahead and delete that point and delete this point, which moves the corner to right here, and that will hopefully remove that intersection. And I'm just going to go around my project and take a look at what we have here. This is a vector that's just laying on top of this one here. To me, it doesn't add anything to the design, so I have it selected. I'll just tap delete on the keyboard, and it's gone. And I'll just go around the design doing the same thing. Here we have I don't think that really adds to the design, so I'll go ahead and I'll delete that point. Then come in here a little closer, and I'm seeing points all over the place. I'll delete that point there and come in a little closer. I think that's going to be okay there. And I'll just go around the design, checking, seeing what we have. and deleting points or deleting little corners of vectors to remove these intersections. And let's get rid of that point there. And that takes care of that. And I don't think I have anything else up here. So we'll come down. Let's see, I'll start at the bottom right corner and work my way that direction. So we'll come down here and select that, still in node editing mode. Delete that point. Look to see, okay, we have a point under here and a point right here. So let's delete that point. That's not necessary. Okay. And take a look over here. It's much the same as one of our previous intersections. So I'll go ahead and go through and finish cleaning this up, and then we'll carry on with the project. And I believe that's it. Come out of node editing, click off, search all again. I have 0, 0, and 0. All is well with this font. We can come out of there. Now we have a decision to make. If you would like to keep this initial as is without the bars, already edited and ready to go this way, now is the time to export it. So I'll select everything here. I'll group it. Then I'll come up to my File menu, come down to Export, and I have a choice. I can save this as an EPS, DXF, AI, SVG, or PDF. I'm going to go ahead and save it as an SVG. I'll come down here to my standard initial font folder, and I'll call this Gaudi Initial EN Edited. Now I can save this and use it the next time I want to create a project using this letter. I no longer have to load that font and come back in and do all that editing all over. So I'll save it and then come down and look in my folder, and there it is. So from here, I'll want to create these bars here. So to do that, I'll again go up here into Draw a Rectangle. I want to anchor that rectangle from the center and place it on my X0, Y0. I want square corners. The width is going to be 13 inches. And I want this height of this rectangle to be about 3/8 of an inch. So we'll get in there, and I don't remember the decimal equivalent of 3/8 of an inch off the top of my head. So I'll type in 3/8 and then tap the equals key on my keyboard. And there's my decimal equivalent. I'll click Create to create that rectangle. Now I'm going to select that rectangle, click on it one more time, and I'll zoom in here a little bit, and I'm going to put my cursor over this edge of the rectangle till I get that 4-way arrow. Click and drag it straight up. And it snaps to the bottom of this vector right here. That places it vertically. Now with it in move and transform mode still, I want another one right down here. So I'm going to hold down the Control key on my keyboard and the Alt key, one key away. So I'm holding down Control and Alt, and I'll come up here. When I get my four-way arrow cursor, I'll click and drag a copy straight down and snap it to the top of this vector right here. With this still in move and transform mode, I want to make sure I pulled it straight down. So I'll come over here to Align, and I want to align it to my material horizontally. I'll click. It moved slightly. I'll come over here and select this rectangle and do the same thing. That moves slightly as well. And now I want to export this monogram again with these bars. So I'll select them all. File, Export, SVG. Now my title is new. I want to click on this export that I already did to set my name here. And I'll come in and click in the center, space, with bars. Save. Now whenever I want to use this monogram, I can just go into my folder, and there they are, with and without bars. And I no longer have to do any of that editing. Now it's a simple matter of adding my text here in the center. Come up here to draw text. And again, I'm going to go with the Algerian font because I like it. And again, I'm going to go with capital letters. Close that. And select it one more time to go into Move and Transform mode. And I'm going to bring it up here just to where it's within the center of my bars here. I'll click off to deselect, then select again, and once again go back here to Edit Text Spacing and Curve. I want to do this while it's still a text object. I'll zoom in here, and something I forgot to mention about the Adjust Spacing tool is it is proportional. So, meaning if I zoom way out and hold down Shift and I click, the amount that these two spread apart is larger than if I zoom in and click. It's going to, the amount of adjustment is finer the closer you zoom in. So I think that was too much. So I'll zoom in again and kind of bring them back together a little bit. Then I want to spread out my I and my N. That's about right there. Then again, I'll come over here and I'll close up my A and my Y. Then I'll come over here and close up the S and the A. Okay, so I have that part set. Click off, come back over into selection mode. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different. And that has to do with this letter Y. This letter Y has been bothering me since the beginning. I like that it's taller than the rest of the word, but I don't think it has to be this tall. So I'm going to modify this letter Y. Before I can do that, I'll need to convert this text to curves. So, with the text selected, I'll right-click, convert to curves. Now I can deselect, and I can work on just my Y. So, let me come in here, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to remove a section here and here, and I want to make this point of this leg of the Y, I want to make it even with this point right here. So I'm going to zoom in pretty tight, and I'm going to come up here into my upper scale, and I'm going to drag a guide down here. and just snap it to that corner of this Y. Then I need to remove some of this and this right here, these two vectors. So I'll select it, and I'll type the letter N to go into node editing. Now let me zoom in here. I have a span that runs from this intersection up here. I don't want to remove all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on this little white transparent square here that indicates the center of this span. And I'm going to put my cursor over it, and you see how it turns into a box with crosshairs. I'll right-click and insert a point. And I'll do the same with this one right here. I'll right-click and insert a point. Now what I want to do is come up here and put my cursor next to this span of my vector, and you see that little tilde show up. That tells me that I am on a vector that can be edited. I'll right-click, and I'll delete that span. And we see the keyboard shortcut is D. So I'll delete that span, put my cursor here, I got that little tilde, and I'll tap the letter D on my keyboard. Now I can back out, tap N to come out of node editing, click off to deselect everything. Now I just want to select this portion, and I want to move it downward and over to reconnect. So I'll click on it to go into move and transform mode. And I'm not going to grab this white square, and I'm not going to grab this black square. I'm going to come up here and put my cursor right there on the end of that vector. And you see how it becomes the square with the crosshairs and that four-way arrow. That means I can move this vector. Click and hold that left mouse button. Start dragging down. I'm going to drag it down until this tip of the Y is level with this tip. We see right up here. Now I'm going to zoom out, and we can tell by where this moved to that it's not going to line up here. So, just using my cursor arrows on my keyboard, I'm going to cursor left until these two line up. I don't want to drag this down and connect it. I just want them to line up. With these lining up, that tells me that these line up as well. Now I'll click off to come out of move and transform mode. I'll select this vector, tap the letter N to go into node editing, and I can drag this point down and snap it to the end there. I can come up here, grab this point and drag it down, snap it to the end right there. Zoom out, tap the letter N to come out of node editing, and I still have this selected. I'm going to hold down Shift, select the rest of the Y, come over under Edit Objects to join open vectors. I have two open vectors. I'll have one closed vector, join. Close that, and my letter Y is complete again, and these two tips up here are on the same level. Now I can shut off my guide because I no longer need it. Now I need to do the same with this vector right here. I need to bring this down. So again, we'll do exactly the same thing. Go into node editing mode. I'll insert a point, delete span, come out of node editing, click off, select this portion of the vector, select it again, and grab hold of this corner right here and bring it down. Now here we're going to need to zoom out because I've got to pay attention up here as well as down here. So I'll zoom in, and it needs to go to the left, I think, just slightly. And looks like I drug it down a little bit too much, so I'll zoom in and tap up, because what I want is a little bit of a uniform space in here. It's going to be a little bit wider, but not a lot. And that means this is no longer lined up here. I'll need to scoot it over slightly. And that looks good. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Click off to come out of Move and Transform mode. Select this again. Go into Node Editing. Drag this point and snap it to that one. Grab this point, snap it to that one. Come out of Node Editing. Select them both. Join vectors. Close. And my Y has been modified. You probably won't have to do that, but should you need to modify a font, that's how to do it. Convert it to curves and use Node Editing to go in and adjust heights. Obviously, this is still too tall. I'm going to have to reduce the size. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select all the text. I'll group it so it stays assembled the way it is. I'll then go into Move and Transform mode. And I want to hold down Shift. Go up here to this top square up here and just reduce it down until the top of my Y is inside this. Then I'll kind of grab and lock it in on the center here. And I need to, what I'm looking at is the space between the top of the letter and the bottom of this rectangle, and the space between the top of this rectangle and this letter here. And that looks about even, but the top of my Y is down in this blank space. It's not up in this rectangle anymore. And that looks okay. I think I'm going to hold down Shift, kind of drag it a little bit wider, not much, but just to make this font a little bolder. Now I'll click off, zoom back out to center my material, and now I'm ready to calculate toolpaths. So I'll go ahead and select this group, hold down Shift, select the rectangles, and I want to group those together so that all of these in the monogram initial are one group. Then we'll go over here to the Toolpaths tab, and I want to use a VCarve toolpath. My start depth is going to be 0 because I want it to start on the surface of the material. I am going to carve to a flat depth of 0.1. I want to use a 90-degree V-bit, and my clearance tool, I'm going to use an 1/8" end mill to get down inside of these bars and these larger areas in between here. I'm going to call this VCarve Initial. We'll calculate that toolpath. We have the Vector Validator warning. Selected vectors may contain overlaps or intersection, which may lead to unexpected results. I'm going to drag this up out of the way. Here's what's happening. These rectangles are separate from these vectors. The top of this rectangle is overlapping, sitting right on top of these areas in here where these vectors are closed. That's why we're getting this message. It's not going to cause any problem. So I'm going to continue anyway. And there is that toolpath calculated. I will change the toolpath color to black. And check marks are in the check marks boxes, making both of these toolpaths visible out here and visible to the preview window. To run them both in order, I'll click on Preview Visible Toolpaths. And we previewed those two toolpaths in order. And there's our monogram. That looks real good. I like that. So we'll close our preview now. Come back over here to the 2D view. I'll click off to deselect, then select my text, and I'm going to do another VCarve toolpath. The reason I'm doing these separately is because, again, this font is too small for 1/8" end mill to come in and clear these out. So I don't need to use the clearance tool. Everything else is going to be the same. I'm going to start at the surface of the material, use a flat depth of 0.1, so not quite 1/8 inch. And I'm going to call this VCarve Text. We'll calculate this toolpath. I'll change the toolpath color to black. And we'll preview that selected toolpath. And there's our finished monogram. As I said before, this was supposed to be a more difficult method of getting this result. And if we would have gone in using our trim tool to trim away all these vectors, it would have been. But through the use of trim selected objects to the last selected object, it eliminated all of that and our need to close vectors up here once that was done. So, I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I do hope you'll give me a thumbs up. Don't forget that today at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll be hosting a live Q&A session where I'll be more than happy to take your insults and answer your questions about anything I've covered in this video. Again, that's noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on my YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to that live Q&A session down in the description box of this video. If you're watching this after the live Q&A has already come and gone, you can click on that link and play that video back. All of my live Q&A sessions are available for playback on my YouTube channel. I hope to see you this afternoon. And, as always, whether you subscribe to my channel or not, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and y'all take care.